Hi there. This is a video for intermediate algebra. This is Unit 2, Section 2. And what we're going to be talking about today is writing equations in what we call point-slope form. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and, typically we would write, you're used to writing equations is y equals mx plus b. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're going to look at something a little bit different. Um, what I want to do is I want to use our slope formula. I'm going to use m is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now, one of the things that we can do here is we can move these x values out of our denominator. And if I multiply by the quantity x sub 2 minus x sub 1 on both sides, all right, x sub 2 minus x sub 1, what happens here is that these divide out, and I'm going to switch things around. I'm going to write y2 minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x sub 2 minus x sub 1, okay? And this essentially is an equation that we can use, all right? And this is really point slope form. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write this as y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1, okay? Where, in this here is what we call point slope form, okay? And what you have is this. You have a slope, m. So m is equal to your slope, all right? And then you have a point, all right? And we're going to call that point x sub 1 comma y sub 1, and that is your point, okay? And then you have variables x and y, okay? So all you need to write the equation in point slope form is you need a slope and you need a point. All right, so let's practice this. Now, what I circled here, this is the important thing to know. All right, that's the important form to know. And, again, you're used to seeing this, but now we're going to start using this. All right, so what I'm going to do is look at the first example. And it says, write the equation of a line in point slope form of a slope of 1/2 that passes through the point 3, negative 2. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write down my point slope form. Okay, so point slope is y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. All right, and what I want to do is identify that we have a slope of 1/2 and that we have a point, what was that point? 3, negative 2. All right, so the point is 3, negative 2. Now, we have our m value, but when we have our point, 3, negative 2, I'm going to call this x sub 1 and y sub 1. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to take all these values and substitute them in here. And so what I can do is I'm going to write this as y minus y sub 1, all right, which is negative 2, is equal to our slope m, all right, which is 1/2, and then times x minus x sub 1, which is 3. Okay? And from here, we're almost done. The only thing that we have to do here is we have to simplify subtracting a negative. And I would want to write this as y plus 2 is equal to 1/2 times x minus 3. Friends, this is it. That is all you have to do for that problem, okay? Because all it's asking you to do is to write the equation of that line in point slope form with a slope of 1/2 that passes through the point. Now, you could still, you could still, if you wanted to, turn this into slope intercept form, and we'll do that in class. But for right now, I just want you to write the equation in point slope form. All right. Now, the next example that we have is a line that passes through the points 5, 4, and 2, 3. What is the equation in point slope form? So the thing is that, we have points, but we don't have a slope. So what I want to do is I want to figure out our slope. All right. So I'm going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So x1, y1, x2, y2. If I plug those in, that's going to give me 3 minus 4 over 2 minus 5. And so then our slope is going to be negative 1 over negative 3. And then our slope then is just going to give us positive 1/3. Now the thing is that at this point you have options, all right? Now I know that I've labeled this point as x1, y1. You can totally use that, or you can use, x2, y2 if you want, all right? So let's write our equation. And I'm going to write this two ways, okay? So the first way, all right, I'm going to use our slope of 1/3. And then I'm going to use the point 5, 4, and I'm going to call this x1, y1. So to write our equation in point slope form, I'm going to do y minus 4, all right, is equal to 1/3 times x minus 5. And friends, this is it. That's your equation in point slope form. Now, the other way that I could do it is, the second way I would do it, I would still do the same thing where my slope is 1/3, but I would use the point 2, 3. Okay, we'll call this x1 and y1. All right, for the purposes of our what do you call it? Our formula for point slope form. So y minus 3 is then equal to 1/3 times x minus 2. And both of these things are going to give you the same thing. So it doesn't matter which one you choose in this sort of situation, but that's going to be our answer. So either way would work. Okay, on this problem, it wants you to graph the equation y minus 3 equals 2/3 times x plus 1. So what we want to figure out here is that this equation is in point slope form. All right, so if I write down our formula, I've got y minus y sub 1 is equal to 2/3 times, is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. So what I want to figure out is I want to figure out our slope m, and then I want to figure out our point x sub 1 comma y sub 1. All right. Now, what's interesting about this, and the part that's going to screw people up, is that you've got this, the slope is pretty easy to figure out. That's just 2/3. That's just the number that's in front of your x, okay? So that's 2/3. We got that. The point is the hard part. And when I have this, you have to think about your formula here. When you are subtracting y from y minus y sub 1, your y sub 1 value in this case is going to be 3, okay? So I'm going to write out that y sub 1 is equal to 3, but the part for x sub 1 is a little trickier. Because this is positive, and our formula says that we are subtracting x sub 1 is actually going to be a negative 1, okay? And that's a little tricky. And what I want you to see is that if I were to plug these values back into this formula, I would get y minus 3 is equal to 2/3 times x minus negative 1. So really, when you have this, x minus negative 1, this is going to change to y minus 3 is equal to 2/3 times x plus 1, okay? And so if you are trying to figure this out and you don't know if you got your your points correct, you can always plug them back into your point slope form to see if you get what you started with, okay? And that's a little tricky. So it's kind of like, whenever I'm trying to identify the point, it's always the opposite of whatever sign I'm seeing here, okay? So now what I can do, let's go ahead and plot this point that we have, and this is the point -1, 3. So let's go ahead and plot that point on our graph. -1, 3 is here. Then I want to use a slope of 2/3 to generate other points. So the thing is, from here, this is rise over run. So I'm going to go up 2 to the right 3. All right, so up 2, 1, 2, 3, and plot our new point here. Up 2 to the right 3, up 2 to the right 3. We can go down 2 to the left 3 as well and draw those points. And then let's connect these with a line through here. And that's the idea. Now, I think one of the things that's tricky about this, and that one of the reasons why we often use point slope form to write our equations, is look at your y-intercept here. Your y-intercept does not hit at an actual whole number or integer. It's going to be a fraction. Okay, so it's a little easier to write these out, and graph it, but it's just a little bit different. You just have to have your point and a slope. Okay. All right, let's take a look at this last question here. So this problem says that an event facility has a banquet hall that can hold up to 250 people. The price for a party includes the cost of the room rental plus the cost of a meal for each guest. Marissa is planning an event for 75 people. She has budgeted $1,200 for the party. Will that be enough? Okay, so what I want to do, this is a tricky question. What I want to do is I want to create an equation. All right, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to write an equation, okay, that models this situation, okay? That's going to be the first thing that I do, and then I'm going to use that equation. So the first thing I want to do is look at these values. I have a couple of points on this graph, okay? And I'm concerned about Marissa is planning an event for 75 people, so I want to kind of figure out, okay, at 75 people, what is the cost? Okay, so when x equals 75, okay, because remember x is the number of guests. What is the total cost? Y, okay? So when x equals 75, y is equal to what? Okay, so what I want to figure out, if I write an equation, I can answer this question, okay? And then analyze, like, is it more than $1,200, okay? So let's do this. First thing I want to do is I want to create 2 points. I'm going to create point 50, comma 725, and then I'm going to make a point 100, 1,325. So if I calculate the slope, and I'm going to call this x1, y1, I'm going to call this x2, y2. So if I calculate my slope here, that's going to give me 1,325 minus 725 all over 100 minus 50, okay? So let's do that math. So if I take 1,325 minus 725, that's going to give me 600, and then 100 minus 50 is going to give me 50. So if I take 600 and divide it by 50, that's going to give me a slope of 12, okay? And when I think about that, that's going to be, that's $12 per one person, okay? And that's the idea, all right? So, so once I have my slope and I have a point, I can write the equation of a line. So if I do y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1, I can plug those in. And I'm going to use my point here for x, x1 and y1. So I'm going to write this as y minus 725 is equal to our slope, which is 12, times x minus x sub 1, which is 50. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to figure out, remember what we're trying to do. When x is 75, we want to figure out what y is equal to. So once I have that information, I can plug 75 into x over here, and I can do y minus 725 is equal to 12 times 75 minus 50 and figure this out. So 75 minus 50 is going to give us 25 and y minus 725. So if I do 12 times 25, so y minus 725 is equal to 12 times 25 gives me 300. So add 725 to both sides. All right. And that's going to give us that y is equal to 1025. So this number here is the cost for 75 people. All right. And so what we want to do from here is answer the question. She has budgeted $1,200 for the party. Will it be enough? Yes, because the cost is 1,025 for 75 people. Okay. All right. And that's the idea. All right. So that's all I've got for this. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.